Thanks so much for your time. I am Pius Kujobaka. I look now at our stories. The Bank of Ghana has increased the single obligor limit of financial institutions to 25% to aid in lending to the agricultural sector. According to the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, this is to improve lending to the sector and ensure food security. He was speaking at the 5th anniversary launch of the Rubber Value Chain Conference of the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk Sharing System for Agricultural Lending. More in this report.
The 5th anniversary launch and the Rubber Value Chain Conference of the Ghana Incentive-Based Risk Sharing System for Agricultural Lending focused on bringing stakeholders together to deliberate on ways to increase lending to the agri sector to boost Ghana's foreign earnings while growing agribusiness in the country. Delivering his address, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, announced an increase in the single obligor limit of financial institutions from 10% to 25% to aid in lending to the agricultural sector.
The credit risk guarantee of GESO has been recognized as acceptable collateral for the computation of the single obligor limit under Section 629 of Act 930 in December 2022. This means that partnering financial institutions can use the credit risk guarantee of GESO as eligible collateral to secure loans, making these financial exposures to the agricultural sector secured. In this regard, the single obligor limit of the partnering financial institutions will be extended to 25% instead of 10%. This has further allowed PFIs to expand their loan books on the back of lending to the agricultural sector.
On this part, Finance Minister Dr. Mohamed Amin Adam entreated financial institutions to consider risk-sharing mechanisms to help SMEs and agribusiness organizations access credit.
The near drought condition we are experiencing in 6 regions of our country has exposed our vulnerability to food insecurity. This does not only dampen the economy by depressing growth, but it's also inflationary as food prices escalate. The Ministry of Finance last month purchased an insurance policy with the African Risk Capacity Limited to cover smallholder farmers in the northern region. And we will scale up this to cover many other regions in our country in the years ahead. So in line with the objective of GESO, I would like to encourage you to consider other risk-sharing mechanisms, particularly in building the resilience of farmers against natural occurrences.
Chief Executive of GESO, Kwesi Dua, said the institution has helped banks advance over 1.2 billion Ghana cedis to agribusiness, with an increase in the number of banks advancing credit to the agri sector.
This 1.2 billion that I spoke about, some of it is gone into export commodities, including the rubber that you just saw in the video and so on and so forth. And so the value of the exports that GESO and the banks have leveraged to agribusinesses is what amounts to the over $5 million that we're talking about. When we started in 2019, we signed up only 3 banks in the first year. 5 years down the line, we've signed out 35 banks. That tells you that the demand is there. The FIs are beginning to take notice and also to take interest in banking. So I think the future looks bright.
The 5th anniversary launch and Rubber Value Chain Conference of GESO was themed Cultivating Growth, 5 years of empowering Ghana's agriculture through innovative finance and technical support. Jesse Aram Agbapo's report, read to you.
They are longer at the Bank of Ghana because total number of staff from banks and other financial institutions involved in fraudulent activities increased significantly last year. Now, the Bank of Ghana in its latest report puts the number at 271, representing more than 40% jump from what was recorded in 2022. There is more in the following report. The Bank of Ghana data showed that out of the 274 cases recorded, 211 of them were involved in cash theft, as compared to 140 in 2022. The Bank of Ghana noted that it was worried about the numbers, making a strong case for the commercial banks to do more by strengthening their internal controls and improve staff due diligence during recruitment, as well as reinforcing continuous in-house staff training on professional conduct. Meanwhile, cash theft emerged as the topmost fraud within the banking space, as institutions in that sector lost almost 15 million cedis compared to 1 million cedis in 2022. The Bank of Ghana links this to an increase in theft in foreign currency and movements in foreign exchange during the reporting year. This was closely followed by cyber and email fraud, which cost the banks 10.5 million cedis. Fraudulent withdrawals from accounts was put at 8.4 million cedis. The commercial banks also lost 7 million cedis due to forgery and manipulation of documents. Meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana says it has tightened its supervisory and monitoring system in the financial sector to reduce the alarming number of fraud cases. Dr. John Dadzi is the Deputy Director of the Financial Stability Department at the Bank of Ghana and has been outlining measures being rolled out.
And from the regulator's point of view, we are looking at not having fraud in any situation. Even if a bank has one or two incidences of fraud, the impact could be very significant. So in terms of the banks, I think it cuts across all the banks. The Bank of Ghana is very much concerned, not just in terms of who has more and who has less. And so what we normally do is that after the release of these reports, we write to all the banks and require all of them to come up with their strategies that they are going to use to minimize the incidence of losses in terms of fraud.
Okay. Now, you say the Bank of Ghana is concerned. So how is the Bank of Ghana collaborating with law enforcement and other stakeholders to combat cyber and email fraud, which, according to data, contributed to the rise in fraud cases, as we're witnessing?
Yes, so the Bank of Ghana, in dealing with fraud, has various partners that it works with. It works with law enforcement agencies. It works with the Ghana Police. It works with the judiciary. It works with YOCO. It works with other, the National Communications Authority to collaborate to fight this canker of fraud. In the case of the banks, we are engaging, and we always engage with the banks, with the SDIs, and that is what has accounted even for the decline in the incidence of fraud that we are witnessing within the banking space. But in the case of the payment services providers, in which we have seen an increase, there's that collaboration with these entities to ensure that we fight it head on.
And we want to analyze the banking sector fraud. Joining us via phone is a banking consultant, Dr. Richmond Etuahene. Thanks so much, Dr. Etuahene, for joining us on Business Live. First of all, I want to understand whether you are surprised about the numbers we are witnessing in terms of the increasing by way of banking staff involved in fraudulent activities. Are you?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to your cherished viewers. I'm not very surprised at all. I'm not very surprised. The way we are going about, the banks are going about these fraud issues, it needs to do a better work than what they do. Because Bank of Ghana has given them the framework to look at how they should go about fraud. And unfortunately, the way we even recruit people into the system, most of these fraud are normally done by condoning or conniving with outsiders. And I believe that the banks would need to step up the game about due diligence on staff and which sectors they put them on. Very, very important.
Very important to say. All right, so you've been there before and you understand the terrain much better. What could be the reasons for the surge of staff involvement in fraudulent activities, you would say?
Well, Darryl, it's always been the case. I mean, you get people coming into the system, and all people are recruited into the banking sector or space. And then they come in and they think they want to make money quick. And the thing that disease that has come into the generation is that I need to make it quicker. So he will look at every possible means to circumvent the lay-down procedure, the lay-down rules, and then he get associate cronies outside who are able to perpetuate this sort of crime. And if you look at it, the incidence of staff is taking a chunk of this issue. And it means that the caliber and the quality of people employed in the institutions we need to look at it again so that we can reduce the numbers. Because the way people are coming in and the way these guys do not know that it is people's deposit and people's money, and they think they can make money. The banks will need to up their due diligence, enhance due diligence, and the systems and procedures so that they can strengthen the risk governance, fraud risk governance in their institutions to mitigate these embarrassing issues.
All right. Meantime, losses as a result of the fraudulent activities, we are told, hit 88 million cedis, a 7% increase. And I want to understand how significant that is.
Well, if you look at the total industry, I mean, currently, as at this report, the total asset of the banks and SDIs and the rural bank, it was close to 274 billion. So if you take a figure of 274 billion and you have 60-something or 60-something million, it's not very significant. But the important thing is that the most unfortunate thing is that the reputational damage that does to the sector, which matters a lot. It's really not the volumes, but every little fraud has some ramification or implication for the confidence of people, especially when we are trying to do financial inclusion. If people hear or they get to know that it is not as safe as they think, then we're not going to have the financial inclusion. So every little amount matters. So fraud, in any other typology fraud or any type of fraud in the sector matters to the industry very, very well.
Dr. Tiani, once again, one would expect that, well, deploying technology would have helped reduce fraud cases, but clearly that is not exactly the case now.
Thank you very much, Darrell. The problem with technology is that, this technology are what you call off-shelf. We go and buy it. And when you buy off-shelf, you don't even understand. All that you know is the processes and procedure it goes through, but the risk control aspect is not there. That is why, if you know the literature of this, some banks in this country do not have even their hub, their software hub in the jurisdiction. It is done somewhere, so that it's always on alert. Always people are working around it to make sure that people do not come in. But if you go and shop around and get one from maybe India or any other country, where you yourself just want something to process your data, but you don't understand the risk, that is where the problem comes in. Don't forget, the generation we have at the moment are versatile with ICT. So if you're going to put somebody there, you must know somebody who really understands the top of the ICT and the down. Other than that, the people come in and they see it as porous and they're able to do. So what I'm saying, what I want us to do is to enhance awareness, training, and also make sure that people who are in such areas do not stay there too long, especially with the technology. The longer you stay with the technology, the more you get to know which things you can do with it. So in technology or ICT area in finance, we don't normally allow people to be there for too long. The longer you stay there, the more you get used to the way you can drive around it or you can sneak behind it and get your work done.
All right. The good thing, however, is that, well, the Bank of Ghana is asking banks to submit strategies to reduce fraud. What would you advise the banks to do?
Bank of Ghana, so let me first commend Bank of Ghana for this type of reports. It's one report that people think that is against the confidence, but no. They've been doing it as far as I was in bank in 1985. And what it does is that they want us to know the typology of fraud, the way people go, which areas do we need to strengthen. That is why I find it very interesting. They tell you forgery, manipulation, fraudulent withdrawals, and they tell you so that if it's ICT, then you need to enhance your ICT capability so that you'll be able to. So for me, all the Bank of Ghana is saying that the banks must go back and begin to know the typology and how the risk mitigants can be put in place so that they would avoid these embarrassing reports to the bank.
We truly appreciate your insights, Dr. Rich Modetiahini. Grateful serving you here on Business Live. We appreciate your time. You're still watching Business Live. We are back with more. Please stay. Hello, welcome back to Business Live. A financial literacy and education campaign aimed at empowering Ghanaians with financial knowledge has been held for traders at the Techiman Central Market. The campaign, organized by the Ghanaian financial industry in partnership with GIZ, also seeks to restore public confidence in the financial sector as well as increase financial literacy across the country. Adnan Sabit has more in this report.
Financial literacy has been identified as the cornerstone to empower individuals to make well-informed financial decisions, manage their finances effectively, as well as participate in the general economic system. Here in Ghana, a campaign has been launched to help restore public confidence in financial decision-making. The team, led by members of the Ghana Microfinance Institutions Network with collaboration from GIZ and the Bank of Ghana, today stormed the Techiman Central Market, where they engaged traders on the need to stay alert when it comes to their financial needs. Chinebua Kodia is the Executive Secretary for the Savings and Loans Association of Ghana, also a member of campaign.
We are here to educate the populace before you spend. The need to know your rights as a customer of any banking institution, any financial institution, your rights, and then your responsibilities. When you have a problem, you should be able to speak to your financial institution.
Chinebua Kudia also encouraged the general public to borrow wisely and plan before signing on agreements to enable them withstand the current economic challenges across the country.
We want to advise anybody who wants to do business with any financial institution. Be transparent with the financial institution. Two, if you want to borrow wisely. If you don't need the money, please don't go for it. Plan before you take any loan. And when you take a loan, ask for all the conditions in the loan agreement. Don't be in a rush to sign an agreement because you may not know what you are putting yourself into.
Ebenezer Kwete is the Executive Director of Microfinance Association of Ghana. He admonished the public to work on spending wisely and avoid unnecessary expenditures.
It's important that we don't, number one, take decisions based on imports. We plan before we spend. It's also important that we separate our wants from our needs. If it is not too important, you may hold on and think through before you take certain spending decisions.
Mr. Ebenezer Kwete was, however, quick to caution the general public to endeavor towards understanding financial documents before signing them, especially when subscribing to loan facilities.
This is exactly what we are telling them, that it's important for them to understand, for instance, the document that they append their signature to before they take a decision to sign a loan contract with a financial institution.
Some members of the general public also shared with us what they learned from the engagements. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Techiman.
The Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, is calling for a reassessment of Ghana's industrialization policy. According to AGI, the growth of industrial companies have slowed over the years, affecting economic expansion. Speaking at the 2024 Ghana Industrial Summit and Exhibition, President of the AGI, Dr. Humphrey Enyimdake, said industrial policies must be targeted at addressing fundamental challenges faced by manufacturing firms. Here is more in this report.
The Ghana Industrial Summit and Expo 2024 provides massive strategic networking opportunities for local and international participants through conferences, matchmaking, B2B sessions, and exhibitions. Dr. Enyimdake at the event said government must improve systems that will make it easier for industry to import raw materials for processing.
It is encouraging, however,
to know that the government is taking steps to mitigate this threat. But more than just a reactive approach, we need proactive policies to ensure that agriculture and raw materials remain central to the promotion of competitive value chains. Equally important are other value chains such as the textile industry, pharmaceuticals, iron, bauxite, and the automotive industry, amidst many others. The automobile, of which in recent times we have seen a number of initiatives being embraced by about 5 automobile companies, are growing their value chains, and we need to explore how we can promote these value chains in the automobile industry.
Deputy Trade and Industry Minister Michael Ochubeifi said government is working to address challenges of the manufacturing sector of the economy.
The various strategic anchor industries being promoted, reinforce forward and backward linkages, and expand the industrial base. For example, a vigorous promotion of the automotive assembly would drive automotive and parts manufacturing, which will in turn enhance demand for products of the iron and steel and aluminium. Similarly, the growth and diversification of pharmaceutical manufacturing can create market opportunities for industrial starch, salt-based industrial chemicals, and to some extent, vegetable fats and oils.
This year's event is under the theme Promoting Value Chains for Competitive Industrial Development.
And before we go, the UK government has announced up to £2 million in funding to strengthen science, technology and innovation in Ghana and Nigeria. Lord Collins, UK Minister for Africa, made this known in a short ceremony to announce a call for proposals for the fund. In his address, Lord Collins noted that the UK government will continue to support growing economies, especially in the area of green innovation and technology. Here's more.
The almost £2 million Sankore Fund is expected to support the UK government's partnership with the Ghanaian and Nigerian government on science, technology and innovation. It will facilitate the commercialization of innovative solutions and startups and enhance government's digital service policy and delivery. Speaking at a short ceremony in Accra to announce the fund and call for proposals, Lord Collins, UK Minister for Africa, explained that the initiative emphasizes the United Kingdom's commitment to support economic growth through technological innovation in West Africa.
And it gives me great pleasure to launch this Sankore call for proposals in partnership with the governments of Ghana and Nigeria. Named after the historic Sankore University, that renowned medieval centre of learning, the fund will provide almost £2 million to strengthen technology and innovation across West Africa.
Minister for Transport Kweku Ofori-Esiama lauded the gesture and reiterated government's pledge to ensure a sustainable environment by supporting e-mobility and other green startups to reduce CO2 emissions in the transport sector.
If we look at our environment, transport sector contributes almost about 30 to 40% of emission in Ghana. So this sector is very, very important. So if you have a company who is prepared to help decarbonize our environment, I think it's a laudable thing and it's something that we need to support. What I would say is that we need technological transfer. We have the human capacity. Our youth are very intelligent. What they need to do is to train them.
Kofa is one of the beneficiaries of the fund. It is a green energy startup which provides clean and affordable energy through swappable batteries. Its founder and CEO, Eric Nagard, explained that the company aims to replace millions of fossil-powered motorcycles in Africa with electric bikes.
Always a delight to have you on. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Let's connect same time tomorrow.